Okay, let's unpack this. You ever get that almost physical jolt of something when you see a certain kind of social media post?
Oh, absolutely.
Not just envy, but this deeper, maybe pricklier feeling.
Yeah. It's like these little squares of, curated life aren't just pictures.
Right. They're throwing something back at us. It's almost like they're mirrors in a weird way.
Or like Rorschach tests, maybe.
Ah.
Those ink blots.
Exactly, like we're projecting onto them.
What's fascinating is that initial, often unconscious ping. That instant, or that internal grimace.
Yeah, it's rarely neutral, is it?
Never neutral.
Yeah.
It's immediately colored by our own experiences and maybe even more so by what's going on inside us deep down.
Totally. Picture this. Sarah's scrolling late at night, probably should be sleeping.
We've all been there.
And she sees her old college roommate, Emily, beaming from a yacht in, I don't know, Mykonos. #blessed.
Ugh, #blessed.
Always.
Sarah's first thought. Ugh, so staged. So fake.
Right, the immediate dismissal. But then, almost instantly, this flip happens. Wait, am I missing out? Is my life less? It's that contrast, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our messy reality versus their highlight reel.
And this goes way beyond simple FOMO, that fear of missing out. It taps into something much more fundamental.
Like what?
Well, if we think about the unconscious mind,
Mm-hmm.
Freud's whole thing, that huge reservoir of thoughts and feelings we're not directly aware of.
It's the hidden stuff.
It heavily influences how we perceive and react to everything, especially something as visually charged as Instagram.
So every time we tap that little heart icon or, silently judge someone's caption about their amazing smoothie, there's this whole unseen world of our own, desires and insecurities just bubbling up. That's actually been unnerving when you think about it.
Precisely. These seemingly minor online interactions are often loaded with personal meaning. Honestly, it often has surprisingly little to do with the actual post itself.
Huh. Like seeing a dating profile.
Exactly like that. You see a couple of photos, a short bio, maybe a witty line.
And suddenly you think you know the person.
Right. Your mind rushes in to fill all those gaps. And what does it fill them with?
Our own hopes, anxieties, prejudices.
Bingo. Projections, basically. We're painting our own picture onto their limited canvas.
Man, it feels like the internet has just put all our internal struggles on loudspeaker.
It really has amplified them. Think about all the self-care posts.
Oh, yeah. The mindfulness reminders, the gratitude journals.
Sometimes it's genuinely helpful, sure. But other times, this makes you feel even more stressed and, behind for not already being totally zen.
Right, totally.
Right.
Oh, great, another thing I'm failing at.
Which raises a really interesting question. Why do certain posts hit us differently at different times? Why does that vacation photo bother me today but not yesterday?
Yeah, what's that about?
It often comes down to our internal state, doesn't it? Are we feeling secure and pretty good about things?
Or are we wrestling with feeling, I don't know, inadequate, bored, stuck?
Exactly. Our unconscious acts like a filter, constantly shaping how we interpret what scrolls past our eyes.
Okay, so let's say I find myself rolling my eyes, hard, at someone's super chipper #livingmybestlife post.
We've all seen them.
Is that really about how shallow I think they are? Or is it maybe more about my own discomfort with, the fact that I don't always feel like I'm living my best life?
That's a key insight right there. That could be what psychoanalysis calls reaction formation.
Reaction formation. Okay, break that down.
Instead of acknowledging our own vulnerabilities, maybe even a secret little wish for that seemingly carefree life they're showing off,
You flip it.
we flip it into judgment. We label them as superficial or trying too hard. It's a defense, really. It protects us from facing those uncomfortable feelings head on.
Right. Wow. It's definitely easier to dismiss them than to look at my own nagging feeling that maybe I'm not happy enough or successful enough or whatever enough.
A very human thing to do.
Okay, what about humble brags? I'm so exhausted from my amazing award-winning project type posts. My gut reaction is usually, oh, please.
And there, we might be looking at projection.
Projection, like projecting my own stuff onto them.
Kind of. You're attributing an attitude to them, maybe that they think they're superior or they're rubbing it in.
Yeah, that feels right.
But if we dig just a little deeper, maybe that irritation actually reflects your own relationship with ambition. Or perhaps a fear that you're not hitting your own goals.
Oof, okay.
It's often much easier to spot the perceived arrogance in someone else than to acknowledge those same anxieties or drives within ourselves.
So all these curated selfies, the exotic trips, the perfectly arranged avocado toast. It's all driven by this really basic human need, isn't it? To be seen, to be validated.
Absolutely. It's like a primal urge, maybe connected to what Freud called libido, but not just in the sexual sense. It's that life energy, that drive to matter, to connect, to be recognized.
And social media is just the world's biggest stage for it now.
Precisely. It's become this massive platform for it.
Mm-hmm.
We're all performing, whether we realize it or not, consciously or unconsciously. We're seeking that external thumbs up, that little heart icon.
But it's shifted, hasn't it, from maybe more private settings where you'd seek validation to this huge public broadcast?
A very public performance.
Right.
And that creates its own pressures, its own anxieties.
Which leads right into that whole Instagram versus reality thing, the big conundrum.
Yeah.
We know intellectually that these are often idealized versions, right? Highly edited, carefully selected moments.
We know it up here points to head.
But we still end up comparing our messy, unedited, behind-the-scenes lives to these glossy highlight reels. It's kind of crazy when you stop and think about it.
It is. And from a psychological angle, this could tie into repression.
Repression, like pushing stuff down.
Sort of.
Yeah.
We might intellectually know it's often a fantasy, but emotionally.
Yeah.
On some level, we still internalize these images as a kind of unspoken standard, this idealized picture, even though we suspect it's an illusion.
It keeps us hooked, keeps us striving, keeps us scrolling.
It can, yeah. It maintains a fantasy that keeps us engaged, maybe hoping we can achieve it too, or just watching others seemingly live it.
And then there's the flip side, the aggression. The internet can be such a hostile place sometimes.
Oh, definitely.
You see genuinely nasty comments, but also those passive-aggressive subtweets. The ones where everyone kind of knows who it's about, but it's not explicit.
Right, the veiled attacks.
It's like people just lose all their inhibitions online. Why is that?
Well, one Freudian perspective might be that aggression is just a fundamental human instinct alongside libido.
Like a basic drive.
Yeah. And the relative anonymity online, the lack of immediate face-to-face consequences.
Yeah.
It can lower our usual social restraints.
So the filter comes off.
The filter comes off, allowing these underlying aggressive impulses to find new, sometimes ugly ways to express themselves.
It even pops up in things that seem smaller, maybe. Like ghosting someone. Just poof, vanishing from a chat or a DM thread.
Ghosting, it feels awful on the receiving end.
But psychologically, could there be more going on there than just being rude?
Well, viewed through this kind of lens, ghosting could represent a profound fear of direct confrontation.
Avoiding the awkwardness.
Exactly. Avoiding the potential messiness, the discomfort, the complications of actually having to communicate clearly, maybe end a connection explicitly. It's a retreat into silence instead of grappling with, actual human interaction.
Okay. What about just unfollowing someone? That seems pretty harmless, like digital tidying up.
It can be just that, sure, decluttering your feed.
Right.
But it can also be more complex. Unfollowing might actually be a subtle form of self-protection.
How so?
Maybe someone's content consistently triggers those feelings we talked about: inadequacy, envy, irritation, unease.
Right.
So unfollowing becomes a way to curate a more psychologically comfortable online space. You remove the trigger. It's a digital form of avoidance, even if we're not consciously thinking, their posts make me feel bad about my life.
Wow. It's actually kind of unsettling how seamlessly these deep psychological patterns just play out in our everyday scrolling.
Isn't it? Our phones have become these little portals, these windows straight into our inner worlds, or at least reflecting them.
Yeah, that little dopamine hit from a notification, the emotional roller coaster of just browsing your feed for 10 minutes.
It's all connected to these fundamental urges, these defense mechanisms, maybe even unresolved conflicts from way back, from childhood perhaps.
Seriously, childhood stuff playing out in my Instagram feed.
It's quite plausible. If we accept that our reactions to the world are fundamentally shaped by our inner landscape, our history, our unconscious drives,
and our online interactions, with this constant stream of stimuli, comparisons, opportunities for judgment or validation,
they offer an incredibly rich field for observing these dynamics in action. Freud talked about dreams being the royal road to the unconscious.
Yeah.
Maybe interpreting our Instagram reactions as like the new express lane. It's showing us a lot about our hidden activities.
That's a thought. So all our social media habits are just littered with clues about our deeper self.
Rich with clues. Absolutely.
The irony is almost funny, isn't it? We spend all this energy trying to project this amazing, perfect, put-together version of ourselves online.
The highlight reel.
But in doing that, we often inadvertently reveal our deepest insecurities and fears anyway. The gym selfies that scream, "Validate my effort." The humble brags that aren't fooling anyone, even loudly announcing a social media break.
Ah, yes, the performative break.
It's all there, isn't it, if you know how to look or maybe how to feel it in yourself.
Precisely. These underlying psychological currents, the ones Freud was mapping out over a century ago, they haven't vanished in the digital age. Not at all.
They've just found new platforms, new pixels to play out on.
They've adapted. They unfold pixel by pixel, like by like, comment by comment. The medium changes, but the underlying human drama, pretty consistent.
So maybe instead of just wondering, what does my carefully curated Instagram grid say about me? The more revealing question is, what am I actually saying about myself by the way I look at everyone else's? By how I interpret it?
That's a crucial shift in perspective.
Yeah.
A really powerful one. Because scrolling isn't passive, is it?
No, it feels active. Judging, comparing, desiring.
We're actively filtering, interpreting, reacting, all through our own unique psychological lens, built from our own unique history and unconscious biases.
It really makes you wonder if anyone truly sees anyone else accurately on Instagram, or are we all just projecting, like you said, Rorschach tests?
It certainly complicates the idea of authentic connection online. Maybe it's less about seeing them and more about seeing reflections of ourselves, our needs, our lacks, our judgments.
It's like this giant collective hall of mirrors. Everyone's reflecting everyone else, but it's all distorted by their own internal stuff.
The focus shifts, doesn't it? Less about accurately perceiving the other person, more about how their curated presentation resonates with or clashes against our own internal world.
But hang on, if true perception is maybe, well, a bit of a mirage online, doesn't that maybe, possibly, take some of the pressure off? If no one's really seeing me perfectly anyway?
That's an interesting angle. Go on.
Well, maybe that constant striving for perfection, the perfect photo, the witty caption, maybe it isn't really about impressing everyone else as much as we think.
Okay.
Maybe it's more about soothing our own internal anxieties, our own need to feel okay, validated, successful.
So the performance is more for ourselves than for the audience.
Perhaps partly. And that endless pursuit of likes and comments. Could that be like a modern version of what Freud called wish fulfillment? Trying to satisfy some deeper, maybe unconscious desire for validation or love or belonging?
It's a compelling way to frame it.
Yeah.
The like is a digital pacifier for deeper longing. And think about the irony.
What irony?
We live in this age obsessed with visibility, with being seen, with personal branding.
Yeah, everything's about putting yourself out there.
And yet we've become incredibly skilled at hiding, at curating, filtering, concealing every online persona, no matter how confident it looks.
Could be masking huge doubts, fears, insecurities.
Absolutely. And the scrolling itself, the endless consumption of other people's lives, could that be a defense mechanism? A way to avoid looking too closely at our own lives, our own feelings? A distraction.
Wow. Okay, so scrolling as avoidance, that hits a little close to home.
It can be, for many of us. It's easier sometimes to get lost in others' narratives than to write our own, or even just sit with our own thoughts.
So the next time I have a really strong visceral reaction to some seemingly harmless post, like someone announces a new job or posts a perfect family photo and I feel that pang.
Yeah, that jolt you mentioned earlier.
Instead of just scrolling past or muttering under my breath, maybe I should pause, like actually pause.
And ask
myself, okay, wait, why did that specific post trigger this specific feeling? Envy, irritation, sadness, whatever.
Exactly. Those strong reactions, especially the uncomfortable ones, they're like little flares going off. They can be incredibly informative.
Informative about what?
They can point you towards your own unresolved stuff. Unmet needs, maybe financial insecurity is triggered by that promotion news, or loneliness by the happy couple photo, or maybe even abandoned dreams stirred up by someone else's adventure.
So these feelings are clues to buried treasure, maybe? Or buried anxieties?
Clues, definitely, to parts of yourself that might need attention or understanding, things that are active within you, even if you're not conscious of them day to day.
And what about the algorithm, this like mysterious force that decides what we see? Is it just manipulating us?
Well, it's certainly designed to keep us engaged, that's its job. But maybe think of it another way too.
How?
Maybe it's also, in a strange, non-human way, acting as a mirror. By learning what you click on, what you linger on, what you react to.
It starts feeding you more of the same.
Right. And in doing so, it might actually be reflecting your own unconscious patterns back at you. Your preferences, your triggers, your anxieties, all laid out in the endlessly scrolling feed.
It's like a weird digital psychoanalytic couch curated by code.
That's a Fascinating, if slightly creepy way to put it. But yeah, it can inadvertently highlight patterns in our engagement that we might not consciously recognize ourselves.
So this whole Instagram experience, is it ultimately about finding genuine connection, or is it mostly about our own projections bouncing around?
Good question.
Is it a tool for real self-expression, or is it just a fancy form of escape? Does it help us understand ourselves and others better, or does it just add another layer of confusion and performance?
Maybe the answer is yes, all of the above. It feels like we're still very much figuring out its true psychological impact. It's complex, ambiguous even.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there are easy answers here.
And maybe that's okay. Psychoanalysis itself embraces ambiguity, complexity, the idea that things aren't always neat and tidy. Understanding ourselves isn't a simple checklist.
True.
The real value might lie in the ongoing the questioning itself, asking why we feel what we feel.
Okay, so a final thought for you listening as you inevitably pick up your phone later.
Yes.
Maybe the invitation here is next time you find yourself lost in the scroll, pay a little less attention to the perfectly filtered lives flashing by.
And more attention to.
More attention to your own internal responses. Those little jolts, those pangs, those eye rolls. Notice them. Don't just brush them off.
Precisely. Pay mindful attention to those feelings. Get curious about them. Try to trace them back to their source, like following a thread.
Because those reactions might just be the breadcrumbs leading you to some hidden truths about yourself.
They very well could be. Unexpected pathways to self-awareness, hiding in plain sight on your screen.
All right, well, it definitely sounds like those old Freudian ideas about the unconscious are still surprisingly relevant, just playing out on a very different, very digital stage.
Indeed. The stage has changed, the actors wear digital masks, but the underlying human psyche keeps finding ways to express itself. So maybe a final thought, riffing on Freud.
Go for it.
He famously said, the ego is not master in its own house. Well, maybe. Neither is your Instagram feed. It's not as simple as it looks. So tread lightly, scroll thoughtfully, and above all, stay curious. About what you see, yes, but even more about why you see it that way.